Hello, everybody. Welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, and we are here with NFL Week 10 Power Rankings. Now, again, I am doing this alone. It's solo time. I'm just kind of, when people don't want to, come on and react to my power rankings or make one with me. We keep on rolling on, keep doing me. So I'm here on NFL Tier Maker, where I usually kind of move around the logos and I'm kind of seeing and weighing the options of like where the power rankings are. Because I haven't done my power rankings for the week, because this week was supposed to be the halfway point in which we all kind of vote and jumble together our own kind of jumbled up power rankings. That way I could use that going forward. I've decided though, since most of the guys we couldn't find a good schedule this week, and it seems like with most of our busy schedules, that'll kind of continue to be a good trend until further notice. So for now, I'm just going to march on as usual, ignore the ads in the right hand side and left hand side, whatever they exist on tier maker. So I'm going to do NFL Week 10 power rankings, but I decided that maybe to do something different instead of just me showing you it and me kind of logicking through like, oh, this is why they're here, this is why they're here. I'm going to do it live. Like, this is just going to be something I do straight up. I don't feel like, really going through the whole big editing process. It's been a really tiring week, so I want to make good quality content, but also be able to, do something kind of fun. So at the end, I'll show you what the power ranking would look like if you want to see, like, how much they went down or went up. But this is kind of how I do it. To give you a big breakdown about what you see in front of you, is I have, what's called 5, 6, 7, 9 tiers, basically. And the tiers really don't mean what they mean. I mean, they kind of do, especially for the video. I kind of made them mean what I really kind of mean of them. But think of each of the tiers as like a gap. Not like a big gap necessarily, but just like it takes probably one good game. I usually won't drop somebody 2 tiers. I'll probably just usually drop them 1 tier because I hesitate to do that. Exception might be the small gap one, because it's indicating like I don't want to put them in either tier right now, but they could easily go between each one pretty easily, and that's where they kind of allow. So the very top tier, people I think that basically are just like maybe these prime teams. They have very few weaknesses. At least that was as of last week. Of course, this list is from last week, NFL Week 9, not taking into account anything NFL Week 10. And technically, I am recording this after the Panthers-Bears game, where the Panthers and Bears had a game. I didn't watch it, so I don't even know anything from it. So I have unbiased thing from that. So don't worry about my opinions going to that. I know the final score and I know who won. That's about it. So I'm not going to take that into account for this power rankings. I'm just going to go straight up like this. And so very top tiers, just like teams I think pretty much have very few weaknesses up to this point, or have proven themselves to maybe be more consistently good. The one below that are teams that I believe this season have shown that they can be a really good team, but there's one thing holding me back from them. Playoff teams, the Chargers or Vikings in this case, are kind of another step below that, where I'm like, I see so much potential in them, but I just have not seen them actually be consistently good with it, and I just don't know if I believe in them. Potential wildcards are just teams that are just solid, and they've shown some bad, they've shown some good, but kind of still in that like fringe area. Small gap is more so for the teams that I believe are kind of in between these next 2 tiers, so the one above the one I just explained, and the next one, which are just teams I just think are like, man, they're struggling too much. I see like some slight glimpses of hope in them, but like that's about it. And then you got the team below that, it's like mediocre. It's like, man, below average, you do fine sometimes, I guess, but like I never see anything great from you. It just feels like I'm seeing more of the same, even though you can win big games every now and then. Below that are teams that are just, you're bad, but like I see the potential. I see what you can be. I feel like I see glimpses, but then you're just bad. So like I see potential, but like you're just bad most of the time. So you're below average by most of the time. And then you got pretty damn poverty, which just, I don't know if I see anything in you anymore. And the ordering, of course, goes from left being the best, right being the worst of that tier. So kind of take that into account and everything. And some of the factors I take into account are, of course, each week I kind of determine, okay, they played which team and where does that team rank on my current power rankings. What's the score of that team? So how badly did they get beat? And then usually I kind of use that as a quick indicator. And then if I feel like I'm really split of a team, based on what I watched from the previous weeks, I usually go with my feelings more than like just stat numbers purely, because I'm like, of course I want to see the highlights, I want to see the plays, I want to see more of this where I get a feeling of each of the teams instead of just saying, okay, this guy's stats is better, so boom, right above them. So, but usually I do use stats to kind of help me logic through whether like, oh, okay, the defense really played good, or was I just kind of like not paying attention to it, basically, So I kind of use that as a backup tool for me. So basically it's who they played, point differential, how I saw, like what I saw from the game, and then I use stats to help back me up. And of course, I do have the NFL Week 10 because I usually pull up like all the games that happen. So we have all the games right here, all 14 games. I believe there's 4 teams on bye week. So those teams I usually just keep the same. The only time I usually move them down or up is when a team moves above or below them. And in terms of all these lines, pretty much all these teams are pretty much right next to each other. Obviously, there might be like tiny, like, maybe one team did slightly bad and one did slightly good, and I still don't close the gap. So I'll logic through that with y'all and just kind of be speaking my mind. I don't know how long this video is because I've done these things for hours before. So I'm going to try to kind of speed up the process, but we're going to go roll the flow, and I usually start from top, go all the way down the bottom. So we're going to look at the Eagles first. And just going to refresh my memory just because it's been a long week. Eagles did play the Cowboys, and we'll kind of look at the Cowboys as well. And they had a decent game. I think the Eagles played well, but I've seen better games. But they won 28-23 against a good opponent in the Cowboys, so I have no reason to move them below, or they're right now just fine. They kind of move up a little bit in my category. Meanwhile, I'm looking at Chiefs right now, and I believe they had a... Were they on bye week? No, they played in Germany. That's right, against Dolphins, and they played fine. You know, it was one of their worst games, but it wasn't anything like spectacularly bad. They played against Dolphins, a high octane offense, and they kept them down. So they kind of move up, in my opinion. Granted, it's more these are stats I see as more of a consistent quarterback rather than somebody like Patrick Mahomes. So my expectations there are a little bit down, but the defense I know played very, very well from what I saw. So I'm kind of like not above the Eagles, but like I'm feeling good about where they are right now. Now, we got the Ravens, and this has been a team that's been feeling very weird because, honestly, I really want to put the Ravens up more. I really do because, like, they had a great run game. Their defense played awesome. They put up a lot of points against a good team. Meanwhile, the Chiefs kind of barely beat the Dolphins, who've been struggling. It's a Germany game, and I'm kind of looking, and eventually I kind of get to this point where I'm like, okay, looking at the stats of the Ravens, they weren't that much more impressive stat-wise besides on the ground. On the ground, they killed this team. Like the Seahawks, they killed this team. And even like the Seahawks-Dolphins, I compare them very similarly at this point. And so this in my mind, I am now logicking through that I'm going to put the Ravens above the Chiefs. And honestly, it's been a consistent thing. The reason why at this point I've now looked at the Chiefs and I'm like, okay, I don't think you're bad. I don't think the Chiefs are bad. Obviously, they're still top 3. But I've looked at the Ravens, and they've consistently moved up and up and up. They've done what they need to do on defense and kept teams down. Their offense at least puts up something, whether it's on the ground or in the air. Say what you will, they're not consistent in one way or the other, but they're dynamic. And they're showing consistency in that and beating good teams. And so I'm kind of sold at this point. The Ravens might just be the second best team in the NFL. And I'm not, like, there's nothing holding me back from there because the Chiefs' defense has been playing really good. And the offense has been really good as well. But, like, it feels like the Chiefs' offense has not been what it was last year. Simple and to the point. I don't think they're playing as well as they did last year. I think the Ravens have lost games that they probably were more in the tier of they could lose. I think it was divisional games they lost. While the Chiefs have lost games I guess they lost a divisional game against the Broncos. But honestly, the only team that really should be losing to in their division is probably the Chargers. And I guess that you can afford a Broncos loss or Raiders loss or something like that. But, like, it's still weird. And they lost the season opener to the Lions. And they haven't been playing against every team. I think they beat the Bears by a long shot. And I think they beat another team by a long shot. But otherwise, they're not really doing amazingly each and every week. And granted, they're going to be tested, in the second half. I think the Bills, Chiefs, and the Cowboys, 49ers are all being tested really a lot in the second half of the year. So we'll see how they kind of stack up when better teams come. But, like, the Ravens have consistently done this and consistently moved up. And I've kind of slowly moved them up, and they're finally here. I think they finally surpassed the Chiefs right now because Lamar Jackson's playing very well. The defense is playing very well. They've had a couple slip-ups, but nothing too major. Well, the Chiefs, I feel like, have just, they had one number 2 spot for so long, and they have a couple down weeks where they move down a few spots, but eventually they climb back up, and they could climb up back this next week. The Ravens-Chiefs are like this together, so I'm not going to go on a whole tangent again. Well, I guess I just got off the tangent, but I think at this point I'm very comfortable saying it's Eagles, Ravens are our 2 favorite teams in the NFL, AFC, NFC wise. So I don't think I'm too out of the loop when it comes to that. Now you got the Cowboys, who again I think they had a great game. And so this is when you kind of look at a loss, and I don't count it at like as much against them. Honestly, I might put them a tiny bit above in my mind, but I'm probably still, hesitant. Obviously, the offense has been playing amazing, and their defense is still putting up numbers and doing fine. And it's against a good offensive line, one of the best offensive lines. It's against a divisional opponent. it's really tough to do well against the Eagles, and they did pretty well. Granted, they sold it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the Cowboys did what they always do and sold the game. But I can't just punish them like boom, like all the way like down here. I'll be honest, they stay up in my Super Bowl favorites here, even though they're 5-3. They have 3 losses. You shouldn't be seeing 3 losses from a team like this, but the Cowboys have done their time down here and have brought themselves back up. And while I do think they're a fringe Super Bowl favorites tier, I think I'm going to keep them in that tier for now. It depends maybe where these other teams kind of feel like they land, but I'm feeling like the Cowboys are staying in Super Bowl favorites, but just barely. We'll see though. Meanwhile, somebody who's probably not going to stay in Super Bowl favorites, because I mean that was a pretty ugly loss. The Bills did good. They did fine. It was a good, fine game. More in the second half, they kind of did more of a comeback thing than stay consistently in the game. But they just didn't have the stats. They didn't really play up to the Bengals standards, especially in the first half at all. The defense couldn't really hold back the Bengals. The offense couldn't get much going until a little bit later. I'm kind of going to just go ahead and say that the Bills are moving down. I think, quite frankly, to the point, I think I'm comfortable in saying that the Bills have showed enough weakness at this point to not just be a strong Super Bowl contender. I see something wrong with them that is just not in the Super Bowl favorites tier right now. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, I feel like, either lose really close games against really good teams, or just get randomly lose one of these games. Randomly lose a game they should not even be near losing. And honestly, let's look at the Cowboys. I'm actually kind of curious what games the Cowboys have lost again. So they lost the game against the Cardinals, so it's a team they should not have lost to at all. They just kind of blew that game completely. They did lose pretty badly against the 49ers. And then they have gradually built themselves back up in winning against Chargers, a decent team there, and the Rams, they destroyed the Rams too, who are pretty, somewhere in the middle tier team. Then they have a good game against the Eagles. So it is a conflicting thing for me whether I'm putting the Cowboys in the Super Bowl favorites tier or not, but I'm going to keep them there for now. We'll see where the 49ers, Jaguars, and all those teams kind of go. But let's look at the 49ers. I don't even remember what they did this week, to be honest. I always forget. Oh, they had a bye week, so I'm not going to move them. They're just going to stay there. In fact, though, what's the 49ers record? 5-3. The 49ers have been pretty bad last 3 games. Do I move the Bills below the 49ers? That's kind of the question I'm having myself. Do I consider this week from the Bills to be that bad, or I not only drop them from the bottom of this tier, but also below the Niners? I'm going to drop them below the Niners. Reason being, I think the Niners, the first 5 weeks, were the team. I do, and I still have some vague hope that maybe the 49ers can bring that back and show that they're not just, falling and collapsing and everything. While the Bills have had this inconsistency the whole season. And I think a game against the Bengals kind of proved a little bit like maybe the Bills don't quite have it. And it hurts putting the Bills right below them. And I still might not keep them there. But it just feels, I drop them from this tier. They're 5-4. No, you know what? They haven't lost 3 games in a row. At least with the Bills, they've one loss type deal. And not all the games are necessarily their fault. The Bengals are still a good team. It was in Cincinnati, so I'm going to hesitate and basically put them right next to the 49ers and just say dropping them the tier is enough for now. We'll see how some of these other teams line up, but I think I'm okay keeping the Bills right above the 49ers. Meanwhile, this is going to be kind of weird because the Jaguars do play the 49ers this week, so that'll be kind of fun. But the Jaguars did have a bye week. Is that correct? I'm just checking to make sure I didn't miss anything particularly. So the Jaguars are going to stay right there. I consider these 2 teams pretty similar at this point for 2 different reasons, but beside the point. Dolphins. At this point, I don't know what to think about the Dolphins. I think they're always going to pretty much stay in Super Bowl contenders unless they lose to a team they're not supposed to. But they're going to stay below the Jaguars for now. I'm going to keep, right now we're only looking at these 8 teams. And Dolphins are the bottom of these 8 teams, definitely. And some of these 3 teams are probably going to surpass them this week. Dolphins lost against Chiefs. They just didn't put up numbers. It's just proving at this point they have not beaten a good team yet. And I'm finally punishing the Dolphins a little bit. Even though they're 6-3, and they're below like a team that's 5-4, they're not playing against the teams that are these teams. They're not playing against Super Bowl favorites, even the playoff teams, very well at all. They've only won against teams down here, and it's kind of starting to get a little old real quick. So it's just how I see it. Seahawks also are getting punished a little bit because say what you will, but the Seahawks did not play well at all. Defense let up so much. The Geno Smith didn't play good at all. And it was against a good team. Don't get me wrong. But like, man, they stay below the Dolphins because at least the Dolphins are putting up points and competing. Like, at least with the Chiefs, they showed that they can be in the range of the Chiefs, but they also were getting destroyed 21-0 in the first half. So take that as you will. I'm keeping the Seahawks below the Dolphins, but it's only not because of Dolphins at all. It's because the Seahawks did so bad this week. Meanwhile, you have the Bengals who beat the Bills, and at this point, I'm putting them above both the Dolphins and Seahawks immediately. Like, that's no thought in my mind. I'm definitely putting them above those teams. I'm debating whether I should jump up and say, all right, you now proven yourself where I think you're above the Jags or above the Niners. Thing is, I'm probably not going to put them right next to the Bills because I'm not going to jump them from back here to all the way up here. That's just not going to happen. Just because I don't do it like that. I'm not a jumper. I don't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots, boom, done. Unless in very extreme circumstances, but this wasn't an extreme circumstance. They did good. They had put up great stats from what I remember, so let's look at the numbers. That way I'm kind of refreshing my mind. Put up great stats against a good defense, against a good team. Simple to the point, they did really well. Their defense even played out of their mind. So I'm not going to give them discredit here, but they didn't beat a team by 50 points like the Dolphins did one time and got +5, or the Giants who got destroyed by 40 and I moved them down -5. The Bengals are not that right now, and I'm not going to put them right next to the Bills because then I get into the conversation like, oh my gosh, so you think the Bills are better than the Bengals even though they just won? So I got to avoid that. I think I'm going to put them above the Jags though. And that's because I think at this point, the Bengals are down this far because they've lost so badly in the beginning. But now they're starting to build up that trust again. And I think they built it up enough where I'm like, I think taking the Bengals taking on the Jags, I feel comfortable saying the Bengals are back enough to beat the Jags. And I don't necessarily say that with every team. I don't think the Eagles necessarily would beat the Ravens. I don't necessarily think the Ravens would beat the Chiefs. Because different matchups happen each week. Different factors play into things. Different lineups happen. Simple and to the point. Not everything kind of depends on Bills beat 49ers. 49ers beat Bengals. Bengals beat Jags. Jags beat Dolphins. I just think that this is kind of a momentum meter almost. So keep that in mind. But I'm really debating about the Cowboys now. I think I have to keep the Cowboys still there just because I think they played well against a good team. And I think they could have easily won that too. And I know there's some officiating things. I'm not a big oh my gosh, officiating screwed them. I kind of make jokes of it, but I don't think that at all necessarily. I think if you put yourself in a situation where you get screwed by officiating, that means you probably could have done more before that officiating happened. So, but the Bills below the 49ers, I definitely can't do that now. I think I still feel comfortable keeping the Bills there because mostly these teams have I think Jags have 2 losses. This is probably the best record here, but they haven't played the best teams yet. Most of these other teams are 3 or 4 losses. Some, I guess Lions are 2 losses as well, I believe. So, we'll see where the lines line up. But I think I'm okay still keeping this tier the way it is because it goes Bills, 49ers, Bengals. And I still don't feel comfortable that Bengals building up trust. Bills are losing that trust. And the 49ers are kind of in between where they can go either way. Jags are just gradually building, kind of stay in this weird top 10 tier. So, yeah, I'm comfortable with this so far. I think the Cowboys deserve up here because they've competed well against the best team in the whole league in my opinion. So, yeah, okay, Lions. Whoops. Not that. Lions. Now, what'd you do this week? Actually, you're on a bye week too, weren't you? So that makes it pretty easy. So the Lions stay where they are. I don't think I'm trying to think whether the Seahawks or Dolphins drop below the Lions right now. I'm just kind of lodging through my mind whether I'm going to actually do that. I'm kind of just getting back in the flow of things of saying, okay, yeah. Agree with all that, agree with that. Lions above Seahawks. Seahawks were originally where on my tier list? I'm trying to think of where they originally were. I'm actually going to pull up my phone. I think I have a picture of the tier list before. Yeah, right here. Seahawks were basically, they've only dropped 1. They can drop 2. I think that's very comfortable. And honestly, I'll put the Lions above the Dolphins too. I feel pretty comfortable in saying that both these teams deserve the bottom of this tier, if not worse. What's their records? So Dolphins don't go out of this tier. I'm not going to give them that just yet. They have one more. Again, I don't think they leave that tier until something big happens for me. Whoops. The Seahawks, though, should be also 3 losses from what I remember. 5-3. Yeah, Dolphins are 6-3. So Dolphins aren't leaving. Seahawks are probably not leaving in my mind. Because 1, 2, maybe they are. I think that big of a loss to a good team really hurts morale, and I think at that point, let's look at their games. too. This helps kind of give me some context and everything because they started off like 12th or 13th, I think, or maybe 11th. I forgot, but they, lost pretty badly to the Rams. Where they competed well against the Lions. Then they had a closer game with the Panthers. Beat the Giants, who were a bad team. Got barely beat by the Bengals, who at that point I think were struggling, but they were still probably up near the same tier. Seahawks, they beat the Cardinals barely, kind of. They had a good game against the Browns, a middle tier team, and they got destroyed by the Seahawks of the Ravens. So they really haven't had anything too impressive other than maybe the Lions win, right? Like, they're kind of in that area where I'm like, there's nothing in here that makes me say they're missing one piece, because they had a really not great game here. They had a really good game here. And I'm kind of just doing some vague memory stuff here too. Like a fine game here, good game here against bad teams, notably. Then like a fine game there, good game, fine game there, a good game. I do remember the Browns game a little bit. Good game there, and then a bad game here. I think I have to put them in the next tier down. I think it's gotten to the point where I think that loss was bad enough to hurt their momentum to that point. And I think that's where they kind of need to be. Because no longer do I see all these teams. I feel like still miss one piece. These teams I feel like almost have no missing pieces. The Cowboys are kind of a fringe exception, almost. I feel like I can't fault them because there's I feel like that game against the Eagles really helped them. I know I'm talking about the Cowboys a lot because I'm trying to logic through whether I want them here or there, and I'm still keeping them here. They're the only probably 3-loss team I would even consider here, because they've been competing well and been constantly moving up. If they had a bad performance against the Eagles, I think I'd easily move them down here. Probably still above the Bills, but I think because they competed so well on offense, which was my main worry with them, I think I'm keeping them there. Like, there's nothing that it specifically worries me much about these teams anymore, except the Cowboys are just Cowboys. I don't know what they do. It's weird. They either do really well or really bad. All these teams I have now some worries about, like a small worry. Seahawks, I no longer have one worry. I kind of have overall, like, is the defense good? Is, like, Geno actually going to be consistently good? Is the receiving game actually going to be consistent? I'm not too sure. And so that's why I'm okay with the Seahawks dropping that tier now. Because they were low enough on the thing where I'm like, I could be comfortable saying, whatever. I can take that. Chargers beat the Jets by a pretty good margin. I watched the game a little bit. I mean, it was impressive. Don't get me wrong, but it was the Jets. I mean, it's mostly because of the defense. I would say it's mostly a defensive game, and the Chargers defense hasn't been stepping up as of lately. 7.5 sacks, roughly, or 8 sacks total. Their offense did what they needed to do. I guess looks like their run game was fine too. I didn't remember Austin Eckler getting 2 touchdowns. I probably should. I'll probably put the Chargers above them, but I'm not gonna. I'll be honest, I'm still not sold on the Chargers yet, being a great team. So I'll put them above the Seahawks at this point. Because, beating the Jets pretty badly, I guess, makes sense. You know what? No, I punished the Seahawks enough. I think I punished the Seahawks enough. Let's keep it like that for now, and let's look at the Vikings, who had Josh Dobbs come in, have a really close game, and came back at the end to win against the Falcons. And at this point, I think this is a good jump for me of, like, I'm not – just because of Josh Dobbs, I'm going to wait one more week. But I think the Vikings at this point prove I think they're better than the Chargers. I think Vikings winning against the Falcons – let's see, they won against the Falcons. Meanwhile, the Chargers beat the Jets, who I think are higher. And the defense played way better than any of these players here. Chargers beat... Yeah, okay, you know what? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. I feel kind of bad because that's actually a 4-point drop for the Seahawks. But, like, when these teams play well, these teams have historically played well. It feels weird putting the lines below them, too. It's... This area is hard. It really is. And the Seahawks aren't easy to necessarily place either. And I feel like maybe I should just keep it like this. Let's keep the Seahawks there. The reason I'm going to say that is because the Vikings have Josh Dobbs, and it could be a freak thing. The Vikings play very well, so I don't want to discredit them. But they did play probably – they don't deserve a better ranking than the Chargers right now. They don't just go more than the Chargers, it looks like. Meanwhile, the Chargers – played well, especially on defense, and against a better team, in my opinion, and according to power rankings. The Seahawks were up here, dropped a bunch of ground, so they had to drop this ground, and they had to drop this ground. Do they really deserve to be put somewhere like right here or right here? And honestly, maybe putting them right there is a good middle ground. Because usually when I kind of put a team near the end of a tier list, I kind of indicate that they're probably lower, like they're ready to go down to the next tier. And I think the Vikings are still in that kind of area. The Seahawks kind of aren't, for me. So maybe putting the Chargers above them is better and kind of indicating like, okay, this is good, but I also could see the Seahawks, being better than the Vikings. I could see the Chargers being better than the Seahawks. I could see the Seahawks being better than the Vikings right now. And I think I'm comfortable saying that. Even though the Vikings are 5-4, the Seahawks have won games at least. The Vikings are starting to get that rolling. The Chargers had a very, very good performance on defense, and that's a really big thing to me. If you excel, it's a big thing to me. I'm not going to put them up here though. They deserve top of this tier, and I think the Vikings deserve right here. And dropping from the Seahawks from there to there, then to there, it doesn't feel like enough because you got destroyed and you didn't perform very well. Then again, I've already dropped them so far because that's 2 whole drops there and then a tier drop. But then again, the Chargers played really well, and then the Vikings played really well. Let's put them between. I think that's a good middle ground, and I feel pretty comfortable in saying that. That's kind of how I'm logicking through. Again, you see my mind process is going throughout the whole thing because I'm kind of logicking out, like saying, okay, Seahawks already dropped quite a bit, but the Chargers also are moving up quite a bit. So they're on the fringe pretty much right there ready. Meanwhile, the Vikings are kind of, honestly, all 3 of these teams are more up here than they are down here. And I'm going to make a note of that right here saying solidly here. Whoops, solidly here. Boom, I don't know. Solidly here, I don't know. I'm just going to do something like that. I don't know. Solidly here. I don't know. I'm not going to keep that. But I'll keep it in the video. That way I indicate myself later. I feel like they're all solidly here. I don't think there's any team afraid of going down at this point. Anyway, let's move on. I've been rambling on too much about these top teams yet. Buccaneers, I think they had a pretty good game, but just happened to have a better one. Simple to the point. The defense kind of sold, to be honest with you. The offense of the Bucs hasn't been that bad. That they've been playing consistently good, I think, in my opinion. But the defense has been kind of stealing for the Bucs now and then. They are 3-5, which actually really hurts for my logic here because I really want to keep them here. But at this point, I think I'm okay dropping them to the small gap where I'm like, one more loss, and I just think they're just kind of out of it. They play the Titans this week, so it helps a lot. I think I'm okay putting them down a tier in the small gap tier. I'm just saying they can go either way at this point. Meanwhile, you have the Browns. What did the Browns do this week? Oh, they beat the Cardinals. They womple stomped the Cardinals, actually. The offense didn't play very well, though. I remember it was all defensive pretty much. Even though it didn't really show in the stats, though, does it? What'd the run game do again? Let's see. Not very well. What'd they do? What? Looking at all this, they really don't indicate that they did anything. Oh, that's the Cardinals. I'm a dumbass. I was wondering. I was like, what? Clayton Dune. That's not Deshaun Watson. Let's see. Yeah, okay, here we go. The offense did pretty good, and the defense did pretty good as well. Okay, so that's pretty good to me. I think it's a pretty good indicator that I'm bringing the Browns up now. And this is kind of a weird spot where I don't have anybody in potential wild cards anymore. So maybe I kind of make this this is a gap now. We'll figure that out, though. I don't think I'm putting them above the Vikings, though. You have a good game against a bad team. Congratulations. But at this point, you pretty much proved, okay, you had a great game. It was against the Cardinals, yeah, sure. But, you got to move up. You got to do something with you. So, I'm going to move them up to the playoff teams because, they have been playing to that caliber anyway. It's just that this win solidified that they didn't really let up anything. So, yeah, that's how I'm lodging in my mind, is that they were in potential wild cards. But now they're kind of improving that because, the offense is looking consistently good. And the defense is playing really good a lot of times. And it was against a bad team, but they, shut them out. That's not easy to do necessarily. So, I'm going to keep them. I'm going to move them up. That's kind of my logic there. Meanwhile, you have the Jets, who did get really, really beat by the Chargers here, and they did not put up stats from what I remember. It was not very good. Granted, I guess Zach Wilson did pretty okay, but their defense I know sold pretty badly. Defense sold pretty badly, and wasn't the run game? I thought it was the Zach Wilson that gave it away. I thought there was some kind of turnover that happened in this game, but whatever. I'm going to, at this point, put the Jets down here. I don't like them. I like Zach Wilson, but I don't like their secondary is doing great. It feels like they have all the talent in the world, but how are they not playing well? And I don't know if I can even blame Zach Wilson. I guess most of his passes are checkdowns or whatever. Yeah. And the run game is fine with Breece Hall, but at this point, that was a small gap. They had something to prove. They lost by a long shot, so I'm moving them down a tier. Simple to the point. I know they're 4-4, but they were down here already, and they haven't really shown much where they're going to go move up or down too much. So I guess staying about the same makes sense to me. Meanwhile, you have the Steelers. What did the Steelers do this week? They have a bye as well. I feel like they had a bye. Steelers had a bye, so they really don't change. So they're going to stay right there in that tier. Nope. No, they beat. Oh, that's right. They had the Thursday night game. So it was at very, very top here. They played well. I do remember this now. The Thursday night game against the Titans. The defense didn't play as well, did they? No, this is the Titans, though. But, oh, no. Okay, 3 sacks. Remember 4 sacks? Yeah, 4 sacks, interception. Okay, so pretty good stats there. Deontay Johnson did come back finally. Was this first game back or second? I can't remember. And run game did pretty well. Kenny Pickett did pretty good. I mean, overall, pretty solidly. I mean, at that point, you're a potential wild card. And I think that's pretty solidly where I think I like the Steelers. And honestly, I kind of don't hate any team there. I mean, I know it's only one team here, but like they filled that spot pretty well. I mean, one more really solid win, I could see them being right there. One more solid loss, I could see them being right back in like a tier. But like, I like them there. I like them in potential wild cards. Right below the or right above the Bucks. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, I'm feeling pretty decent about it. Jets are down there, down that tier. Bucks are down that weird, like, one more loss really gets you, but one more win could really solidify you. And Steelers finally got that out. I mean, they won against a mediocre team in my opinion, but they didn't just lay down. Titans are at least an emerging team, so it was a close game, but like the Steelers played well, so I have some promise for them. That's what I kind of feel about them. And they have a 5-3 record right now. It's not necessarily nothing. So take that as you will. Meanwhile, we'll move to the Packers, who do play the Steelers this week, and they did pretty much beat the Rams pretty badly. Jordan Love played decently, and the defense, I don't remember the defense doing too well, but I mean I guess they did well enough to hold them to 3. So I mean take that as you will. They beat the Rams, who I consider kind of down here still, who are now, are they 3-6 or they have a bye week, 3-5? No, 3-6. Wow, Rams are 3-6 and they've been playing actually kind of good. I'm gonna put them in the small gap tier. I'm gonna put them below the Bucks though, because they're still 3-5. I still like the Bucks better, but I think at this point the Packers have proven enough to go into like the I'm okay either way tier. I think you go up more if you win a game or two. Then again, maybe it was just a solid win. I just put them above the Jets. I'm actually just going to, I don't think I'm that close since in potential wild cards. I'm much more closer to the missing playoff teams. So, like, I'm just going to move them above the Jets and feel good about myself there because Jets, I think, proved that they were really bad while the Packers won pretty solidly. Meanwhile, the Rams are conveniently right by them. And, yeah, their offense did not do anything with Matthew Stafford gone. Their defense did step up like a little bit, though. But at this point, I'm going to keep them there right now because I don't know where the Giants are going. And they may go the mediocre at best because 3-6 is pretty rough, and you're playing the way you are. You look like a good team, but like, man, it's just like there's so much potential there you're just missing, man. Meanwhile, the Giants, they had a game against the Raiders, and they keep on getting worse and worse. I stood on the ground to say the Giants are not that bad, but I mean, 2 turnovers just in the passing game. I don't remember if there's any fumbles in this game, but like defense also playing the shit against the Raiders. At this point, you're down here. I know you're going to be at least mediocre at best. I don't know where you're going to line up here, but it's not going to be good for you. Do I think the Rams are better? That's the big question. Do I think the Rams are better than the Giants at this point? And the answer is yes, easily. But are they that good where they're going to move right here? I'm going to keep them right here for now, but they could be moving down to mediocre at best. I'm keeping the Rams right there, but we'll see when I get the Saints here. Meanwhile, the Saints won against the Bears in a very decently close matchup. Bears have been performing really decently well on offense though, so like but defensively they haven't been the best. So I don't know how Derek Carr struggled as much as they did. The run game didn't get a whole lot going. Kind of interesting that Taysom Hill got more carries, interestingly enough. But beside the point, the defense for the Saints, fun enough. I think I'm just putting them over the Giants just purely because, but I don't think I can move them up a whole tier for a win against the Bears. Like a 1-score win against the Bears too. Commanders, you won against the Patriots. Congratulations. Probably his stats are over 300 yards. Not surprised. And your defense probably did shit all. Yep, that's about what I expected. Keeping you below the Saints, but you do move up above the Giants pretty easily. Titans played well against the Steelers, and that's about it. Will Levis did turn the ball over once. Derrick Henry had a good game. Defensively, Titans did I'm probably going to keep the ordering the same so far because at least both these teams won their games. Titans didn't, but I mean, again, the Giants lost by a long shot against a not, whatever game. Like, Giants are blowing my mind right now. Just awful. So, yeah, right now I feel very comfortable with what I got there. Patriots, though, let's see the Patriots again. Let's look at their stats against the Commanders. They've been playing very poorly, 2-7. I'm keeping them below the Giants more than likely, just merely because I think they moved down as well, and I don't think the Giants moved down as much as they have and moved below the Patriots. So I'm going to comfortably keep the Patriots below them, but the Patriots may go into the next tier. I'm not too sure on that one yet. Because they're 2-7 now. It's pretty ugly. Pretty ugly. Meanwhile, the Falcons. What the Falcons do again. They played the Vikings, and that's right, this was actually a pretty good game by them. The defense kind of sold, I think, but they still played decently well. Jonnu Smith is getting involved. That's good. Taylor Heineke's probably a step up. The run game is still not being utilized as much as it should be. But I think they lost, but it was against a good matchup against a good team. Against a good team. I think I'm comfortably going to do that. And Giants don't move down in their tier. They're just going to stay there. But I'm debating now about the Rams and the Patriots. And at this end of the day, I'm looking at the Rams. They lost a game against not a great team. And they're already on the fringe for me. They're 3-6. At that point, I got to say they got to move down. I won't move them below any team. But at this point, I got to tell myself, like, they're 3-6. They got to prove something. They got to prove something, like, quick, because otherwise I'm just going to put them back down in this tier. I can't keep them in this tier any longer. That's how I feel. So they're kind of still in the, like, maybe Saints category for me. And the reason why, like, even though Saints are, like, 5-4, like, I don't care. Like, they're not as, I guess you can maybe argue the Bucks, but, like, I thought the Bucks were a little bit better, and they're moving down. There's a lot of factors in play here about where they started and things, so take that as you will. Meanwhile, we have the rest of these stats. Am I going to move the Patriots down? Is it time? Is it finally time? Look at the Patriots. They were at the bottom of that tier already. So, like, I think it's time. We'll put them there. We'll put them there finally. They're finally in that tier for me. They at this point have just sold, and they played the Commanders, who were a very similar team too. So let's just call it a day and move them down. That's what it's called. Now this is called reawakening week for me. Colts and wait, this does not feel like week 10 or week 9. Sorry, but it was week 9. Why does this not feel like it was week 9? Colts did well. Honestly, I might kind of move the Colts up. They're 4-5, and they did put up decent stats. We'll put them below the Giants. How about that? The Colts are a team where I feel like, okay, you know what? Maybe finally you're showing some luck with Gardner Minshew and having some competitive matchups, even though it's against the Panthers, who are not a great team. I feel like they've been playing well enough at this point. Their defense is doing fine that I can finally move them up. I feel like the Colts were one of those teams where I feel like I could move them up a tier, and I think I finally am. I'm not going to move them above the Giants because I think the Giants got punished enough. They already moved down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams, and I think they deserve to after losing the game they did. It's very similar to, like, at least with the Cowboys game, they moved down 5 because they played against, they were around good teams. This is around teams that are so volatile. These teams are so volatile because I change my opinion almost every week of them. But the Colts, I think I'm going to still be hesitant on them enough where I reward them saying, okay, I can see them going either way, but I still am hesitant enough to be like, I'll put them back in if I see a bad performance type deal. So we'll go with that. Panthers, meanwhile, played against the Colts. And now that I'm remembering this game a little bit, they put up very bad stats because Bryce Young had a really bad game while C.J. Stroud had a really good game compared to their weeks before. So they're going to stay below the Patriots. Yeah, they're going to stay below the Patriots pretty comfortably. The Broncos had a bye week, so you're not going to move down, but I'm going to move the Panthers below them. And I'll move the Patriots below them. No, I won't. I don't think. No, I'll keep the Patriots above them. I think I feel comfortable enough saying the Panthers are right next to the Broncos already. They played worse. They moved down. Patriots already had a little step above them. They deserve to go down, but I don't know if they deserve to go down that much. So, like, sure, we'll keep the Broncos right below them. Raiders, I mean, you won. I know that. What was the game you won? Was it against Giants? Was that what the game was? Yeah, that's right. What was your stats, though? I'll just look at you. Fine. Josh Jacobs had a good game. Receiving game was pretty good. Defense did pretty good. Against like whatever team. I'll put you above the Raiders. I think that's about it. Do I put them above the Broncos? I'm going to put them above the Broncos purely because they beat the Broncos and they have a better record. But I'm not going to do too much for them. I'm not going to put them above the Patriots just yet. I think they put up enough stats to say, yeah, we'll definitely go above the Panthers. And I think they moved up enough to say, okay, you beat a team that's slightly above you pretty well. We'll put you above there, but I'm going to keep the Patriots where they are. Texans, I mean, you probably are going to go up all the way. Like, when C.J. Stroud has a historical game like that, I mean, granted, it was a close game. The defense kind of that's something we got to consider here. C.J. Stroud had the game of his life. I'm going to fully acknowledge that. But looking at everything else, they had no run game. Their receivers are amazing. Look at this. I mean, that's amazing. Look at how many people he got involved. Fucking amazing. Then you look at their defense. And their defense didn't do anything. Will Anderson Jr. got another sack, which is cool. I like seeing Will Anderson Jr. do good. I like both these guys. I liked a lot, so I'm glad they're both on the same team and both doing well. Meanwhile, how do you get 0 carries but 10 yards? The fuck? Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna question it. Above the Panthers. 1, 2, 3. I'm not gonna move the Panthers out just yet because I really like the look of the Panthers, but like they're pretty much almost there for me. And the Bears could change that depending on. Like I said, I didn't watch it. I'm gonna rewatch it, all that. Put them above the Panthers pretty comfortably, and I'll put them above the Broncos, but I'm not gonna move them above a team that won. They both won. Raiders beat the Giants. Texans beat the Bucks. But their defense played not great. Maybe we do one of those things where I think at this point, where's the record of the Texans? 4-4. You know what? It's a close game, though. It's a close game. Oh, the Texans. Why is one of the last teams I'm doing so hard? Definitely above the Panthers. The Panthers move down. Texans definitely move up. I think enough of a boost, I'd feel comfortable at least putting them above the Broncos. Because I'm going to reward that C.J. Stroud thing. Now it's the Raiders I'm questioning. They're right behind the Raiders. The Raiders move up a little bit for beating a bad team with decent stats. Texans barely beat a good team with amazing stats. So maybe they go right above the Raiders but stay behind the Patriots. That's what I'm kind of logicking out right now. And I feel really bad because the Texans have been one of these teams I feel like I've been punishing a lot. Because I feel like they're still young and showing glimpses of greatness, but still not quite achieving it. But they don't feel like a team that should be an eh. They don't feel like it, but they were down there. They've had some really bad games, but they've had some really good moments too. And their defense keeps on holding them back, it feels like. It's not C.J. Stroud, I think, that's holding them back. I think it's the defense. And the defense still didn't perform bad. It's just, I mean, when you let up 37 points, that's not nothing. So I'm going to... You know what? We're going to make another tier. We're going to make another small gap tier for both the Patriots and the Texans. And it's going to be called the dark. When I get this conflicted about something, I'm basically putting a new tier on there because I don't think it's a big difference. I think the Texans could lose and be back down here. Patriots could lose and go right down here because I'm also feeling good about the Patriots being there because I'm like, ugh, it sucks that they're doing so bad, but they also had a close game against a decent team. It's like I feel like they're moving marginally down. One more loss brings the Patriots down here. One more loss brings the Texans back here. Well, Texans also could go up here, and then the Patriots could go back up here if they finally have a win and show off something. They're more likely going to go down, while the Texans are more likely to go up. But like, that's kind of where I'm at with both these teams. These teams are basically right together. And I feel like the Patriots at this point, boom. I feel like the Texans had a higher climb, so they didn't quite meet where the Patriots were. But I feel pretty good about what this looks like right here, right now. Then you have the Cardinals and Bears. I'm just going to quickly end this off. The Cardinals, one of the worst teams in the whole league right now, put up no stats, looked awful. Clayton Tune's not it. Probably without even questioning, I'm going to put them below the Bears. But I'm going to look at the Bears at least and show that I at least considered them. And at least they put up stats. That's all I got to say about the Bears. You can say they turned the ball over. You can say their run game was eh. And you can say their defense didn't do the best. But whatever. They competed against a decent team while the fucking Cardinals got destroyed by the Browns. And the Browns are a decent team too. But like comparatively so by my standards, the Cardinals played the Browns. And the Bears played the... who did the Bears play? Saints. Who I guess are pretty different teams. But yeah, they're both pretty damn poverty. I'm not gonna reward them at all for this whole week. But like, I'll change up the ordering. I think the Cardinals are way worse at this point. And that's my ordering. Let's kind of go through and logic this out, and then I'll kind of show you. I'll put up on the screen like the new power rankings for this next week, and that will just be kind of a flash and saying, oh, that's what the changes were. The Eagles above the Ravens, Ravens above the Chiefs, Chiefs above the Cowboys. That's your solid teams, and I feel comfortable with that about that. I think the Cowboys have proven themselves enough where I think they're a fringe Super Bowl favorites here, but they also are kind of in that worrisome, like, they show much more weakness on defense or anything, or their offense slows down. I'll probably punish them. Bills above 49ers, 49ers above Bengals, Bengals above Jags, Jags above Lions, Lions above Dolphins. Bills feel good there, 49ers feel good there, Bengals feel, I feel good about that tier 2 because Bills are getting punished more and more. Bengals are still building themselves up and almost in the next level, but like we haven't met that just yet. Playoff teams of Chargers, Seahawks, Vikings, Browns. I feel very good about that tier, to be honest with you, and I feel even better about the Steelers being right there behind them. Buccaneers feel really good in that small gap tier. The Packers and Jets are just in that weird missing playoff tier, like but they're Packers, Jets. Then you have the mediocre at best category with the Rams, Saints, Commanders, Titans, Falcons, Giants, Colts. That feels actually like a really good tier, and that ordering feels kind of nice. The small gap below that is the Patriots, Texans, and I obviously don't feel like the Texans feels a little weird to me being that low, but it's just because I'm kind of getting high off them, I think. So I feel pretty okay with the logic I did with the Texans there, especially when it was against the Bucs and it was still a close game. I wish it wasn't a close game, and that way I could feel good about just moving up the mediocre at best, but I think I have to be reserved with the Texans right now. Raiders, Broncos, Panthers, and then Bears, Cardinals. I feel pretty good about this power rankings. I did this in 46 minutes, and this is probably a longer video. I don't know if I'll cut any of it. I'll kind of look over it real quick and see if there's anything I need to cut. That's my thing. Here on screen right now is kind of the change in orders, and I'll kind of showcase that. I don't have it on screen with me right now, but yeah, on screen it's just like, hey, by the way, this is the current power rankings for this week. And I feel pretty good about it. I don't know what the exact changes are, but with the ones I can think of on top of my head, I don't think I overly punished any team. I don't think I overly helped another team. And I think the ordering feels good. It feels currently present of what my opinions are indicative of. Even though I may pick the Texans above like the Commanders in a game, it's because I'm getting higher off the Texans, and I feel good about them winning and going up. Not necessarily because I think the Texans are the best, like would win most of the games. And I'm not necessarily even saying the Commanders will win more games. I just don't know. I think right now the Commanders are where I think they're indicative of where they're playing are. Well, Texans aren't. Texans are. Sorry, comparatively. So that's my kind of tier list. That's my ordering, and that's kind of the logic I do every week. It takes me a lot longer, though. Usually I have a video playing in the background, and when I get in serious big talks, I talk to myself, just like I'm doing now. So it kind of is just me doing this normally and showcasing the results. So kind of cool, but I've been rambling long enough. It's probably about a 45-minute plus video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Kind of seeing the background behind all this. I'm losing my voice, getting a little late. I'm probably going to record a little bit of NFL imperialism and then go to bed. But thank you all for watching. Please stick around, hit the notification bell. Please subscribe. Leave a comment down below about any suggestions you think for the channel. And I will see you guys later. StraightA Dawson, out. Take care, guys.